Hello internet people, welcome to another edition of the Broken Box Gamer. Now I've only recently just started this channel, but already I've received such great feedback, some really nice messages, and one in particular was my first request from a Mr. Roy Brown. So Mr. Brown, I hope by the end of this video you'll have a rough idea how to play the game you've asked for, and without further ado, minor T. Here we are, The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31. Now, I'll set it down here a second. The Thing is one of my all-time favourite horror movies. The only one or two, depending on what mood I'm in, that beats it is Alien or Aliens. But it's a fantastic film, it's a fantastic game. It might be interesting trying to explain it. But we'll get there, I'm sure. The only trouble with this one is it's tough to get it to the table during current conditions due to the minimum player count being 4 players. But like I said, we'll see what we can do, and hopefully by the end of the video you'll have a rough idea on how it's played. So yeah, let's have a look at The Thing, Infection at Outpost 31. Turn order and reference cards. Captain indicator, 6-sided dice, 12 character boards, objective tracker, supply deck and sabotage cards, mission log cards, gear cards, blood sample cards, double-sided power out room destroyed cards, double-sided infection tracker, room tokens, room destroyed counters, double-sided smoke and fire tokens, new recruit orientation and regulations manual, Outpost 31 playing board, computer infection tracker, The Thing miniatures. Your character miniatures. Kurt Russel never looked so good in plastic. So the first thing you do when playing The Thing, Infection from Outpost 31, is to roll the dice. Whoever gets the highest number gets to be captain. This person remains captain throughout setup and the first mission investigation. Place the infection tracker and the objective tracker next to the board, with the computer being on space 1. Take note which side of the infection tracker you're playing on, as one side is for 4 to 5 players and the other is from 6 to 8. Starting with the captain and proceeding clockwise, players choose their character. When choosing your character, please take note that you're only allowed to take characters from the department stacks with the most remaining characters. This ensures there's roughly an even distribution of skills amongst your team. For the purposes of this investigation and this explanation, I'm going to use 4 characters: Childs, Copper, Blair and McCready, each with their own department: maintenance, ops, science and maintenance again. Once all characters have been chosen, place the minis in the rec room. Just waiting on McCready. Just like that. Next up, sort through the mission log cards, discarding any card that doesn't apply to your player count. So for us, we'll discard the 6s and the 5s, leaving the 4 and the 3s. So once the cards are all sorted, your mission log deck's ready, just give it a quick shuffle and place it on the game board. Next, place the gear cards somewhere near the side of the board in reach and view of all players. Next, take the player tokens for Area 1, which is the grey area on this side of the board, and place each chip in the corner of each room. Be sure to give them a bit of a shuffle first. Once placed, Area 1 might look a little bit like this, with the room chips in the corner. Once that's done, do the same for Area 2 and Area 3. Once that's complete, the whole board might look a little bit like this. There we go. Next, take the supply deck, including the sabotage cards, and give them a bit of a shuffle. Once that's done, place it in the supply deck area as shown on the board. Done. Moving on, the captain needs to create a blood sample deck. These are simple cards that just show if you're an imitation, or the thing, or a human. Depending on the role you're given in the game, depends on what objective you're trying to achieve. The number of cards used to create the blood sample deck is dependent entirely upon the number of players in the game. For this example, we'll be using 4 players. That's 4 blood sample cards, one of which being an imitation. The number of imitation cards used grows with the player count. When you are playing the game, just use the manual to help you create the blood sample deck, because it has a nice guide in there which shows you how many imitation cards and how many human cards to use depending on the player count of your game. Once the blood sample cards have been shuffled, each player will receive one. Once the first blood sample deck has been created, the captain must make a second one for use later in the game. This will consist, in this case, of 7 human cards and 1 imitation card. And that's the game set up. Let's learn how it plays. The objective of the thing is dependent entirely on whether or not you're a human or an imitation. The objectives for humans are pretty simple. In Sector 1, find a thing and a rope. Once that's found, proceed to Sector 2 and find a thing and some dynamite. Finally, kill 2 things in Sector 3 and find a flamethrower. Once the final objectives have been completed, you can move on to the escape phase. We'll discuss that later. For those playing as an imitation, infect the remaining humans, destroy Outpost 31, or finally, stow away on the escape helicopter. More on that later. It is worth noting that if there are any imitations escaping on the helicopter at the end of the game, the thing will also win. The player in possession of the gun, or the captain indicator, begins each turn. After all, he who has the gun makes the rules. The captain will draw a mission log card and place it face up in front of everyone, and then resolve any event that's listed on the card. Okay, so when you get the mission log card, there's a number of things that you have to take note of. Firstly, the player count needed to complete the mission. In this case, it's 4 players. The next part of the card to take note of is which member of the squad you have to take with you. In this case, it's a member of the science team, highlighted green to be helpful. So the next part of the card that you have to take note of details exactly what you need to achieve to complete the mission. In this case, it's to reveal all cards. If at least 3 have exactly +1 dice value on them, then you'll pass the mission. More about revealing cards and dice and everything else in just a second. In addition to the missions, sometimes when taking a mission log card, you'll either draw a power outage or a smoke card. The way this works is you simply read what it states on the card, roll the dice, and apply smoke or power outage to the room indicated. So let's say instead of a mission being drawn, it was a smoke card. Now smoke can lead to fire, which can lead to a destroyed room. Too many destroyed rooms and it's game over. So sometimes it's best to deal with these things as soon as they show up. 4. So that means we'll be placing a smoke token in the common office, which is room 4 as it shows in the corner. If a designated room that has smoke in it has not been dealt with a fire extinguisher, that smoke will become fire. If for whatever reason the fire still hasn't been taken care of by the end of the next turn, that room will be destroyed. In the event a room is destroyed with an uninvestigated room chip on it, simply take that chip and place it elsewhere in the current sector. If there are no rooms available, I'm afraid it's game over. With each room destroyed, place a room destroyed token on the appropriate tracker. Once 4 rooms are destroyed, game over. In a similar fashion, if you fail too many investigations, game over. The other card you can draw is a power outage. This means you can apply this card to one of the rooms determined by rolling the dice, and that means that you cannot investigate that room unless somebody in your party has a flashlight. Now that everything's set up, the captain, that's McCready in this case, decides which room in Sector 1 his team are going to complete their mission in. This can be any room in Sector 1, provided it's not been destroyed or there's a power outage. If there's a power outage, you can only complete this mission if someone in your party has a flashlight. In the event that there's a room with smoke in it, it might be wise to contend with that room first, as that can lead to fire, which can lead to destroyed rooms. In this case, however, everything seems relatively normal, so Macready's going to lead his team to the manager's office. In order to complete a mission, every player must hand in one of their supply cards face down to the captain. The captain will then shuffle the cards and reveal them. Hopefully, provided that all your team members want you to succeed, the resulting cards will meet the objective listed on the card. However, sometimes a card can be handed in that reads sabotage. This means the task automatically fails. Now I'll show you something I already know. Macready is human. That means any card from his supply deck that he gives towards the mission will hopefully be something the mission is asking for. In the event that he doesn't have a card that the mission is asking for, he'll give something that will affect the mission in the least negative way. Now Blair is an imitation, which means he'll be giving either a sabotage card from his supply deck, a card that's pretty useless towards the mission, or he could try and garner the trust of his compadres for a little while and actually give something useful. So the mission states that when all the supply cards have been revealed, if at least 3 have exactly +1 dice value, then the mission will be successful. Looking at Macready's deck, he does have a +1, so he's going to hand in the flashlight. Bear in mind, this will be done with a flashlight face down. If Macready was playing as the Thing, he might hand in the sabotage card, which is an immediate fail of the mission. Looking at Blair's hand, he does have a +1. It's a fire extinguisher, which is useful for putting out fires, so even if he wasn't a Thing, he might think twice about giving this one over. Instead, he might give the copper wire, or he might play a sabotage, depending on how sneaky the imitation is trying to be. In this case, just so we can move on, he's going to play the copper wire. So, once the 4 cards have been collected, we give him a quick shuffle. And then you reveal them. In this case, 3 people are given a +1, so the mission is successful. Any used cards are placed face up on the discard pile. It is worth noting that once the supply cards have been revealed, the captain does have the option of discarding a single card and replacing it with a card from the top of the deck. This, however, cannot be done with the sabotage cards, and sabotage cards must always be dealt with immediately. Something we haven't mentioned up to this point, yet is worth noting, is every player has the special abilities. The captain power, which means when they're captain, they get to do one of these 2 options. With the mission successful, we can now reveal the room chip. In this case, Macready got lucky. Take a rope card from the gear and place it near your character. Place the rope chip token on the name slot in Sector 1. This completes the first half of the Sector 1 objectives. Next, you've got to find the Thing. In the event the mission was successful, return the players to the rec room. If any team member was sent to resolve smoke or fire with a fire extinguisher before the mission, they can now return to the rec room as well. Make sure that any players that helped out with the previous mission in giving supply cards draw supply cards from the deck in order to return their hand to 5 supply cards. In the event a mission is unsuccessful due to lack of resources, a sabotage card, or losing a battle with a Thing, move the contagion marker up, dealing with whatever consequences are written on that space. Once the contagion marker has been moved, return to the rec room and continue play. Let's take another mission card. So, with a new round is a new captain. In this case, it's Blair. Now, we all know that Blair's a Thing because we looked at the card, but the other players don't have a clue. In a moment, Blair will select which team members he wishes to take with him. As this next mission is only requiring a 3-player count, Blair will decide which players gets to go with him and which one is left behind. It is worth noting that any player left behind during an investigation will have an opportunity to discard a card and draw a new one from their supply deck at the end of the turn. That is, unless a rope is used to tie that character to the couch. So in this case, Blair wants to make life as difficult as possible for the other survivors, so he's going to tie McCready to the couch, which means McCready is not allowed to discard or draw any new cards. After securing McCready to the couch, Blair decides they're going to do an investigation in the storage room. So, Blair's team's objective is to shuffle and reveal a random card once the supply cards have been handed in, and if it's a copper wire, his team passes. So looking at Blair's cards, we can see he doesn't actually have a copper wire, but Blair isn't ready to play a sabotage card yet. That might keep people in a little bit too early that he could be the thing. So in this case, he's going to give over something that the team might need at a later date, like a gun. So after the supply cards have been handed in, give him a shuffle. Let's reveal a card. It's a copper wire. Mission successful. Now reveal the room chip. A thing. Oh dear. Although you could probably get away with just using the token, we're going to stick on the level 1 thing miniature, because it looks pretty awesome. With the thing in place, let's see how these battles work. As stated at the end of the contagion tracker, a level 1 thing requires 3 rolls to get 3 of a kind to defeat it. At the start of a thing battle, each player involved hands in another supply card. With the supply cards handed in, give them a shuffle. It's kind of hard to shuffle 3 cards, just bear with us. Once shuffled, reveal the cards. This time for the battle, what you want to take notice of is the number of dice at the bottom. 2 dice, 3 dice, no dice, which means someone doesn't want you to win this battle. The most dice you can use in a battle is 6, but due to the gun and the Molotov being handed in, Blair gets 5. So in the case of fighting Thing 1, Blair has 5 dice, and he has 3 rolls to try and roll 3 of a kind. 2 3s and 2 4s. Blair's going to keep the 2 3s and roll the remaining 3 dice. He's done it on the second roll. Thing 1 is defeated. Thing Battle 1, take the Thing chip and place it on the objective marker where it belongs. In the event you lose the battle with the Thing, simply gather all the Sector 1 tokens, give them a shuffle and redistribute them, which means the search for the Thing will continue. Once players have returned to the rec room, untied McCready and returned the number of supply cards they have in their hand to 5, we can continue to the assimilation phase. During the assimilation phase, the captain will take the second deck of blood sample cards that was created at the beginning of the game, give it a shuffle, and then deal out 4 more cards to the remaining players. Unless you're an imitation, whatever blood sample card you're given overrides your current one, meaning if you're human, you remain human if you're given a human card. If you start off human but you're given an imitation card, you're now an imitation. If you start off with an imitation card and given an imitation card, you stay an imitation. If you're given a human card, once again, you're still an imitation. During the last objective of the game, you come across a flamethrower. This flamethrower has 2 uses. I'll talk about torching a player in just a second, but for now, let's talk about the blood test. This involves simply choosing a player and forcing them to show you their blood sample card. You can also use the flamethrower to add +3 rolls to the initial rolls done during a mission. Bear in mind, only 1 flamethrower can be used per mission. Now let's talk about torching a player. After the mission's log card is revealed, but before the team is selected, a player may expend both uses of the flamethrower to attempt to torch a player. The player using the flamethrower must accuse someone of being an imitation, then lead the group in a brief discussion and vote on whether that person is or isn't an imitation. In the event of a yes vote going ahead, that player reveals their blood sample card and is eliminated. If they were an imitation, well done, but can you really trust everybody else on your team? If they were a human, that was murder, and move the contagion tracker up 1. Rolling a die to find out which room the events listed on the contagion tracker will happen in. Now with all objectives complete, let's look at the escape phase. The escape phase mostly consists of the human players trying to figure out who the imitations are. Once they've decided who's who, or who they think is who, a team is selected to escape on the helicopter, leaving the potential imitations behind. All the while, the imitations will be doing their best to deceive and convince the human players that they're human, so at least one of their number can make it onto the escape chopper, winning the game for the thing. The player who was the captain when the final part of the objective tracker was fulfilled chooses another player to be the final captain. This captain will be the one who gets to see the escape phase through to the end. But first, they must meet the approval of the rest of the players. And provided the contagion tracker hasn't reached the final zone, it's time for the final captain to do one last blood test. If the contagion tracker is still in the yellow zone, you can do 2 blood tests. If it's in the orange, you get to do 1. This involves the final captain discussing with the other players who, or whom, should reveal their blood sample cards. With cards revealed, or not depending on what stage the contagion tracker was in, it's time to do one last flight out of Outpost 31. The final captain automatically gets a place on the chopper, so for your sake, I hope that you made a good choice. Imitations who have been revealed through an M blood test may not be selected to be on board because obviously you're just not that stupid. But all other players are eligible to escape. The final captain must select at least as many players as the escape target chart shows. As you can see, in a game of 4 players, 2 or 3 players must make it out alive, with no humans being left behind. Once a decision has been made and the final team has been selected to leave, everybody who has chosen to escape on the chopper reveals their blood sample card, one by one. If any of these cards are revealed to be an imitation, the imitations have won. If you are all human, congratulations, you've survived the thing, infection, at Outpost 31. And that's the thing, infection at Outpost 31. Bit of a long and rough journey, but I think we got there in the end. And with a bit of luck, you've got a slightly better understanding of how the game works. The only thing I think I left out was a rule about the character abilities. Each character has got different abilities, not necessarily the same ones on McCready's card. But it's always wise to keep that in mind when choosing your character. Other than that, if there's anything else I've left out, by all means leave a comment, let me know. Give the video a like and feel free to subscribe to my channel if you like what I've done. Same deal as usual, I've no idea what I'll be doing next. But watch this space, you never know, I might get another request. And if that's the case, then of course I'll see what I can do. Until then, take care, have a good one, bye bye.